Maya didn't know that the man sitting 3 tables away in the coffee shop was the Alpha King of the Northern Territories. She didn't know that he had been searching for his fated mate for over 2 centuries, and she certainly didn't know that her desperate outburst would change everything. The wedding invitation trembled in her hands, the elegant script blurring through her tears. Marcus and Elaine request your presence at their wedding celebration, her ex-boyfriend and her sister. The date was circled in red on her calendar, 3 days away. 3 days to figure out how she was going to survive the most humiliating event of her life. The memory hit her like a physical blow. 6 months ago, Marcus had stood up at her parents' dinner table, his hand resting possessively on Elaine's shoulder. "I need to tell everyone the truth," he had announced, his voice carrying that particular brand of cruelty reserved for public humiliations. "Maya was practice, good practice, but I needed someone with more substance, someone worthy of the family business connections." Elaine had smiled sweetly, her perfectly manicured fingers playing with the engagement ring that should have been Maya's. "We didn't mean for it to happen this way," she had lied, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "But when you know, you know." Maya's parents had said nothing, nothing at all. Their silence had been the cruelest cut of all. Now, staring at the invitation in the bustling coffee shop, Maya felt that familiar ache spreading through her chest. She couldn't avoid the wedding. The family business depended on maintaining relationships, and Marcus's family held too much influence in their industry. Her parents had made that crystal clear when they handed her the invitation with apologetic eyes and firm voices. "You'll need to attend, sweetheart," her mother had said, "and you should bring someone, a date. Show them you've moved on." Moved on, as if 6 months was enough time to rebuild herself after being publicly declared unworthy of love. The coffee shop hummed around her with the comfortable noise of afternoon customers, but Maya felt utterly alone. She had exactly 72 hours to find a date who wouldn't mind being her shield against the most painful day of her life. The problem was she had no one. Her small circle of friends had awkwardly chosen sides after the breakup, and most had chosen Marcus and Elaine's side. Success was attractive after all. "This is impossible," she whispered to herself, her voice breaking slightly. "I'm desperate. I need a wedding date, and I have absolutely no one to—" "Excuse me." The voice was deep, warm, and came from directly beside her table. Maya looked up to find a man standing there, and her breath caught in her throat. He was impossibly handsome. Tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair that looked like he'd run his fingers through it, and eyes the colour of amber honey. Everything about him radiated power and confidence, from his perfectly tailored suit to the way he held himself like someone accustomed to being obeyed. "I couldn't help but overhear," he said, his mouth curving into an amused smile. "You need a wedding date?" Maya felt heat flood her cheeks. "Oh God, I said that out loud, didn't I?" She wanted to disappear into the floor. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to—" "Don't apologize," he gestured to the empty chair across from her. "May I?" Every instinct Maya had developed over the past 6 months screamed at her to say no. Strange men in expensive suits didn't just offer to solve your problems out of kindness. There was always a catch, always a price to pay. But something in his eyes, something warm and patient, made her nod. He sat down with fluid grace, and Maya noticed how the other customers seemed to unconsciously shift their attention toward him. There was something magnetic about his presence, something that made the air itself feel charged. "I'm Gabriel," he said simply. "Maya." Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "So, Maya." Gabriel leaned forward slightly, his full attention focused on her in a way that made her heart skip. "Tell me about this wedding." The words spilled out of her before she could stop them. The whole humiliating story. Marcus, Elaine, the public breakup, the business obligations, her complete and utter lack of options. Gabriel listened without interruption, his expression growing darker with each detail. 3 days, he said when she finished, and you need someone who can play the part of a man who knows your worth. Something in his tone made Maya shiver. I can't ask you to. You don't even know me. This is crazy. Is it? Gabriel's smile was devastating. Let me make this simple for you, Maya. I'll be your date to this wedding. No strings, no expectations, just one night where you don't have to face them alone. But why? The question burst out of her. Why would you help a complete stranger? Gabriel was quiet for a moment, his amber eyes studying her face with an intensity that made her feel seen in a way that was both thrilling and terrifying. Let's just say I have experience with people who don't appreciate what's right in front of them. Maya's hands were shaking again. I can't afford to pay you, and I don't know what you'd get out of... I don't want your money, Maya. His voice was gentle but firm. I want to help, that's all. She stared at him, trying to find the catch, the angle, the reason why someone like him would care about someone like her. But all she saw was sincerity and something else, something that made her chest tighten with unexpected warmth. Okay, she whispered, hardly believing the word as it left her lips. Okay. Gabriel's smile could have lit up the entire coffee shop. Say no more. Something golden and warm unfurled in Maya's chest as their eyes met, like sunshine breaking through storm clouds. For the first time in months, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as alone as she thought. She had no idea that the man across from her had been waiting centuries for this moment. No idea that the warmth spreading through her body was the first stirring of a bond that would change everything. And she certainly had no idea that in 3 days her entire world would be turned upside down. But Gabriel knew, and as he watched the hope bloom across her beautiful face, he made a silent promise. Maya had been hurt enough. When he was finished, everyone would know exactly how precious she was, including her. The next morning, Maya stood outside the most exclusive boutique in the city, questioning every decision that had led her to this moment. Gabriel had insisted on meeting her here to properly prepare for the wedding, and she was beginning to realize she had vastly underestimated what she'd agreed to. Maya? His voice carried that same warm authority from yesterday, and she turned to find him approaching with that fluid confidence that made her heart skip. In daylight, he was even more devastating, the kind of handsome that belonged on magazine covers, not helping desperate strangers in coffee shops. I've been thinking, she began, wrapping her arms around herself. This is too much. I can't let you... Buy you a dress? Gabriel's amber eyes sparked with amusement. Maya, if we're going to convince everyone that you've moved on to someone infinitely better than Marcus, you need to look the part. The way he said Marcus's name, with casual dismissal, as if her ex-boyfriend was barely worth acknowledging, sent an unexpected thrill through her chest. When was the last time someone had spoken about her with such protective certainty? But I can't afford anything in there, she protested, gesturing at the boutique's intimidating window display. And I can't let you pay for... Gabriel stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and masculine that made her thoughts scatter. Maya, I'm going to ask you to trust me on this. Can you do that? The golden warmth from yesterday stirred again in her chest, stronger now. Something about his presence made her feel safer than she had in months, as if the constant anxiety she'd been carrying was finally beginning to ease. Okay, she whispered. The boutique was a temple to elegance, all soft lighting and hushed voices. Maya felt completely out of place until Gabriel placed his hand on the small of her back, a simple touch that sent heat spiralling through her entire body. We need something for a wedding, Gabriel told the sales assistant, a woman who immediately straightened when she saw him. Something that will make every person in that room remember why they should have appreciated her in the first place. Maya's breath caught, the way he spoke about her, like she was precious, like she was worth fighting for. It was intoxicating. The next hour passed in a whirlwind of silk and satin. Gabriel sitting in the private viewing area while Maya tried on dress after dress. She caught him watching her in the mirror during each reveal, his gaze intense and appreciative in a way that made her skin flush with awareness. "That one," he said finally, when she emerged in a midnight blue dress that hugged her curves and made her feel like someone worth looking at. "Definitely that one." "Gabriel, this costs more than my rent," Maya said, staring at the price tag with horror. He stood up and walked to her, reaching out to adjust a fold of fabric at her shoulder. The simple touch made her shiver. "Money means nothing to me, Maya, but seeing you realize how beautiful you are, that's priceless." Their eyes met in the mirror, and Maya felt something fundamental shift between them. The air grew heavy with tension, charged with possibility. Gabriel's hands lingered on her shoulders, and she found herself leaning back into his touch, despite every warning voice in her head. "Why are you doing this?" she asked softly. Gabriel was quiet for a long moment, his reflection watching hers with an intensity that made her heart race. "Because someone should, because you deserve to be cherished, not discarded, and because—" He paused, something flickering across his features. "Because the moment I saw you, I knew you were extraordinary." Maya's throat tightened with emotion. "You don't know me." "Don't I?" Gabriel's voice was gentle but certain. "You're strong enough to survive being betrayed by the two people who should have protected you most. Brave enough to face a room full of people who will judge you. Kind enough to worry about accepting help from a stranger. I know enough." The warmth in her chest expanded, spreading through her body like golden honey. Maya had forgotten what it felt like to be seen, really seen, by someone who thought she was worth protecting. That evening, Gabriel insisted on a practice dinner. "If we're going to convince everyone we're together, we need to be comfortable with each other," he explained, leading her to a restaurant so elegant she felt underdressed despite her new outfit. "Tell me about your work," Gabriel said once they were seated, his attention focused entirely on her. Maya found herself relaxing, sharing stories about her job at the marketing firm, her dreams of starting her own business someday, her fears about the family company's expectations. Gabriel listened like every word mattered, asking questions that showed he was truly hearing her. "What about you?" she asked finally. "What do you do?" Gabriel's expression shifted slightly, something guarded entering his eyes. "I run a family business, multiple interests. It keeps me busy." "That's beautifully vague," Maya teased, surprising herself with the playfulness in her voice. Gabriel laughed, the sound rich and warm. "I prefer privacy. Too many people want things when they know too much about your business." Something about his tone suggested layers she wasn't seeing, but Maya didn't push. They all had secrets. As the evening progressed, she found herself leaning closer, drawn by his magnetic presence. When Gabriel reached across the table to touch her hand, demonstrating how they should look comfortable with casual affection, electricity shot up her arm. "Like this," he murmured, his thumb tracing across her knuckles. "We need to look like we can't keep our hands off each other." Maya's breathing shortened. "Right, for the act." Gabriel's eyes darkened. "For the act?" But when he lifted her hand to press a soft kiss to her palm, Maya felt the gesture echo through her entire body. The golden warmth in her chest flared into something deeper, something that made her want to lean into his touch and never pull away. "We should practice other things too," Gabriel said, his voice rougher than before. "Dancing, conversation, the way couples move together." Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. When Gabriel stood and extended his hand, she took it without hesitation. He pulled her close, one hand settling at her waist while the other cradled her fingers. They swayed slowly to the soft music playing in the restaurant, and Maya felt like she was floating. "Look at me," Gabriel commanded softly. When Maya lifted her eyes to his, she saw something that made her breath catch. Heat, desire, something raw and intense that had nothing to do with pretending. "Gabriel," she whispered, not sure what she was asking. "I know," he said, his forehead almost touching hers. "I feel it too." The admission hung between them, dangerous and thrilling. Maya knew she was in trouble. This was supposed to be pretend, a favour from a stranger. But the way Gabriel looked at her, the way her body responded to his touch, the way something deep in her chest seemed to recognise him, none of this felt like pretending. When he walked her to her door that night, Gabriel paused before leaving. "Maya," he said, his voice serious, "tomorrow is going to be intense. Are you ready?" Maya looked up at him, this beautiful, mysterious man who had appeared in her life like an answer to a prayer she hadn't known she was making. "With you there, I think I can handle anything." Gabriel's smile was devastating. "Good. Because Maya?" He reached out to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "Tomorrow everyone is going to see what I saw the moment I met you. You're extraordinary, and it's time the world knew it." As he walked away, Maya touched her cheek where his fingers had been, the golden warmth in her chest, now a steady glow. Tomorrow she would face Marcus and Elaine with Gabriel by her side. Tomorrow everything would change. She just had no idea how completely. Maya stood before her bedroom mirror, hardly recognizing the woman staring back at her. The midnight blue dress transformed her completely. Elegant, confident, beautiful. For the first time in months, she looked like someone who deserved to be chosen. Gabriel would arrive any moment, and her heart hammered against her ribs with a mixture of anticipation and terror. Today she would walk into that wedding with her head held high, Gabriel's steady presence beside her like armour against whatever cruelty awaited. The doorbell rang, and Maya's breath caught. When she opened the door, Gabriel's reaction was everything she'd hoped for. His amber eyes darkened as they travelled over her, and something primal flickered across his features. "Devastating," he murmured, stepping closer. "Absolutely devastating." Maya felt heat bloom across her cheeks. "You clean up pretty well yourself." Gabriel, in a perfectly tailored black suit, was a sight that should have come with a warning label. He looked powerful, dangerous, and completely out of her league. But when he offered his arm, his smile was warm and reassuring. "Ready to show them what they lost?" he asked. Maya placed her hand on his arm, drawing strength from his solid presence. "Ready." The country club where Marcus and Elaine were holding their reception sparkled with old money elegance. Maya had been here countless times for family business events, but walking in with Gabriel felt different. Heads turned as they entered, conversations pausing as people took notice of her mysterious, devastatingly handsome companion. "Maya, darling!" Her mother appeared immediately, her eyes bright with curiosity as they fixed on Gabriel. "And who is this?" "Mom, this is Gabriel," Maya said, proud of how steady her voice sounded. "Gabriel, my mother, Patricia." Gabriel extended his hand with that natural authority that made everyone else seem slightly diminished in comparison. "Mrs. Chen, a pleasure." Patricia's eyebrows rose at his cultured accent, the expensive watch on his wrist, the way he carried himself like someone accustomed to deference. "The pleasure is mine. How do you and Maya know each other?" "We met recently," Gabriel said smoothly, his hand finding the small of Maya's back in a gesture that looked both possessive and protective. "And I knew immediately that I had to know her better." The warmth in his voice, the way he looked at Maya like she was the only person in the room, it was so convincing that Maya almost believed it herself, almost forgot that this was all pretend. "How wonderful," Patricia said, but her smile was calculating. Maya recognised that look. Her mother was already trying to figure out Gabriel's net worth and social connections. They moved through the cocktail hour with Gabriel playing his part perfectly. He was charming without being overbearing, attentive without being clingy. When other guests tried to engage him in conversation, he deflected smoothly, keeping the focus on Maya and making it clear that she was his priority. "You're good at this," Maya whispered as they stood at the bar. Gabriel's expression grew serious. "Maya, there's something I need to tell you." Well, well, look what the cat dragged in. The familiar voice made Maya's blood turn to ice. She turned to find Elaine approaching, radiant in her white dress and carrying herself with the smugness of a woman who had won everything she wanted. "Elaine," Maya managed, forcing a smile. "Congratulations." Elaine's eyes swept over Gabriel with obvious interest, lingering on his expensive suit and powerful presence. "And who is this gorgeous man you've brought to my wedding?" "This is Gabriel," Maya said, her voice tighter than she intended. Gabriel stepped forward slightly, positioning himself between Maya and Elaine in a move so subtle Maya almost missed it. "The bride, I assume. Congratulations on your special day." His tone was polite but cold, and Maya felt a thrill at the barely concealed disdain in his voice. Elaine, however, was too focused on his obvious wealth and status to notice. "Gabriel what?" Elaine pressed. "I feel like I should know you from somewhere. You have that look of someone important." Before Gabriel could answer, a shocked gasp came from behind them. "Oh my God! Gabriel Winters!" Maya turned to see James Morrison, a prominent businessman she recognized from family events, staring at Gabriel with a mixture of awe and terror. "Your Majesty," James continued, his voice dropping to a reverent whisper. "I didn't realize you were attending. If I had known—" The blood drained from Maya's face. "Your Majesty." The words echoed in her head like a death sentence. Gabriel Winters, was royalty, not just wealthy, not just important, royalty. And she had been pretending to date him like he was some random businessman who felt sorry for her. "James," Gabriel said calmly, but Maya could hear the warning in his voice. "Perhaps we could discuss this later." But it was too late. The damage was done. Maya felt the world tilting around her, humiliation flooding through her system like poison. She had been lying to a king. She had accepted his help under false pretenses, thinking they were equals when she was nothing more than a charity case. "Maya," Gabriel said softly, reaching for her arm, "let me explain." "No." The word came out sharper than she intended. Maya stepped back, putting distance between them. "No, I can't." Around them, more people were beginning to notice. The whispers started. "Did you know that's Gabriel Winters? What's he doing with Maya Chen? How did she meet the Alpha King?" Alpha King. The title hit Maya like a physical blow. Not just royalty, supernatural royalty, the most powerful shifter in the territories, if the stories were true. Elaine's face had gone white with shock and envy. "Maya," she said, her voice sharp, "what exactly is going on here?" Maya couldn't answer. She felt exposed, humiliated, like a fraud who had been caught playing dress-up in a world where she didn't belong. The golden warmth that had sustained her for the past 2 days turned cold and bitter in her chest. "I need air," Maya said, her voice barely a whisper. She turned and fled toward the terrace doors, desperate to escape the stares and whispers that followed in her wake. Behind her, she heard Gabriel call her name, heard the authority in his voice as he addressed the gathering crowd. But Maya kept walking, her heart breaking with every step. She had thought, for just a moment, that maybe she was worthy of someone like Gabriel. But he wasn't Gabriel. He was His Majesty, Gabriel Winters, Alpha King of the Northern Territories. And she was still just Maya Chen, the girl who wasn't good enough for her own ex-boyfriend. The terrace was empty, thank God. Maya gripped the stone railing and tried to catch her breath, tried to process the magnitude of what had just happened. She had made a fool of herself in front of the most powerful man in the supernatural world. Worse, she had made a fool of him too. "Maya." Gabriel's voice was soft, careful. She didn't turn around. "Please," he continued, "let me explain." "Explain what?" Maya's voice broke. "That you felt sorry for some pathetic human who was desperate enough to beg a stranger for help? That this was all some kind of royal charity project?" She heard him move closer, felt the heat of his presence at her back. "That's not what this is." "Isn't it?" Maya finally turned to face him, tears blurring her vision. "You're a king, Gabriel, A king, and I'm nobody. I'm the girl who wasn't even good enough for Marcus, and now I've somehow tricked you into—" "Stop!" Gabriel's voice carried such command that Maya's words died in her throat. He stepped closer, his amber eyes blazing. "Don't you ever call yourself nobody, not ever again." "But I am," Maya whispered. "I'm nobody, and you're everything, and this whole thing is impossible." Gabriel reached for her then, his hands framing her face with a gentleness that made her heart ache. "Maya, look at me, really look at me." Against her better judgment she did, and what she saw in his eyes, the intensity, the longing, the something that looked almost like desperation, took her breath away. "This isn't charity," Gabriel said, his voice rough with emotion. "This isn't pity. This is the most real thing I've felt in centuries." "Centuries?" Maya's voice was barely a whisper. Gabriel's smile was sad and beautiful. "I have a lot more to explain than just my title, Maya, but first I need you to believe this. Meeting you wasn't an accident. Helping you wasn't charity, and what's happening between us isn't pretend." Before Maya could respond, angry voices erupted from inside the venue. Through the glass doors, she could see Elaine and Marcus approaching, their faces twisted with fury. "Time's up," Gabriel said grimly. "They're coming. And Maya?" His hands tightened on her face. "Whatever happens next, remember this moment. Remember that you are precious, you are worthy, and I would choose you over anyone. Every time." The terrace doors burst open, and Marcus stormed out with Elaine close behind. "What the hell is going on here?" Marcus demanded, his face red with anger. "Maya, how did you meet the Alpha King? What kind of game are you playing?" Gabriel released Maya and turned to face them, and the transformation was immediate. Gone was the gentle man who had been comforting her. In his place stood a predator, power radiating from every line of his body. "I suggest you watch your tone," Gabriel said softly, and something in his voice made even Marcus take a step back. But Elaine was too angry to be intimidated. "This is ridiculous," she spat, glaring at Maya. "Everyone knows you're nothing special. Whatever lies you told him, whatever you did to trick him into coming here with you—" "Enough." Gabriel's single word cut through the air like a blade. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "You have something to say about my mate?" The word hit Maya like lightning. Mate, not date, not charity case, mate. And from the way Gabriel was looking at Marcus and Elaine, like they were prey who had just made a fatal mistake, Maya realized the real show was just beginning. The word hung in the air like a thunderclap. Mate. Maya's world tilted on its axis. Every supernatural romance novel she'd ever read, every whispered story about shifter bonds, none of it had prepared her for the reality of hearing that word spoken with such fierce certainty. Marcus recovered first, his face twisting with disbelief and rage. "Mate? That's impossible! Maya's human. She's nobody!" Gabriel moved so fast Maya barely saw it. One moment he was standing beside her. The next he had Marcus pressed against the stone wall of the terrace, his hand around the other man's throat. "I warned you about your tone," Gabriel said softly, his voice carrying a growl that made every primitive instinct in Maya's body scream danger. "But since you seem determined to insult what belongs to me, perhaps we should discuss this properly." "Gabriel," Maya whispered, shocked by the casual violence, the predatory grace with which he moved. Gabriel's eyes flicked to her, and she saw something wild and possessive burning in their amber depths. "Stay back, love. This won't take long." Marcus was gasping, his feet barely touching the ground. "You can't. I didn't know." "You didn't know she was mine," Gabriel agreed conversationally. "But you did know she was innocent. You did know she was kind. You did know she deserved better than your cruelty." His grip tightened. "Tell me, Marcus, what gives you the right to decide who is worthy of love?" "Gabriel, please." Maya stepped closer, her heart hammering. "Don't hurt him. He's not worth it." Gabriel's expression softened slightly as he looked at her, but he didn't release Marcus. He hurt you, publicly, deliberately. That makes him very much worth my attention." Through the terrace doors, Maya could see wedding guests gathering, drawn by the commotion. Her parents were there, Patricia's face white with shock. James Morrison looked like he was preparing to call security, then apparently remembering exactly who Gabriel was. Elaine, meanwhile, had gone completely pale. "Your Majesty, please," she stammered. "This is just a misunderstanding. Maya and Marcus used to date, but that was before we knew about your connection. If we had known she was claimed—" "Claimed?" Gabriel's laugh was cold and sharp. He released Marcus, who slumped against the wall, gasping. "Maya isn't claimed like property, you fool. She's my mate, my equal, my queen." The declaration rang out clearly enough for every person pressed against the glass doors to hear. Maya heard her mother's sharp intake of breath, saw the shock ripple through the crowd. "That's impossible," Elaine said weakly. Gabriel turned to Maya then, and the transformation was stunning. Gone was the predator who had terrified Marcus. In his place stood the man who had listened to her dreams, who had made her feel precious and worthy. "Maya," he said gently, "I know this is overwhelming. I know you're scared, but I need you to hear this, and I need everyone else to hear it too." He stepped closer, his hands reaching for hers. Maya let him take them, drawn by the warmth in his eyes, the absolute certainty in his voice. "I've waited over 2 centuries to find you," Gabriel said, his voice carrying clearly in the sudden silence. 2 centuries of empty formal events, of political alliances disguised as romance, of pretending that status and bloodlines mattered more than the pull of a true bond. Maya's breath caught. "Gabriel, when I saw you in that coffee shop, desperate and heartbroken, and still so impossibly brave, something in my chest recognized you immediately." His thumbs traced over her knuckles, sending sparks up her arms. "The mate bond, the golden thread that connects souls across time and species." "But I'm human," Maya whispered. Gabriel's smile was devastating. "Do you think that matters to fate? Do you think the universe cares about bloodlines when it's weaving souls together?" He lifted one hand to cup her cheek. "You're mine, Maya, as surely as I'm yours. I felt it the moment we touched, and I know you felt it too." She had. The golden warmth, the immediate sense of safety, the way her body responded to his touch, like it had been waiting for him all her life. Maya had told herself it was just attraction, just gratitude, just the fantasy of being rescued. But deep down, she had known it was more. "The Alpha King doesn't have human mates," Marcus said from behind them, his voice hoarse. "It's not possible." Gabriel didn't even look at him. "The Alpha King has exactly 1 mate, the woman fate chose for him. And Marcus?" Now he did turn, and his smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "She's standing right here." Maya felt the weight of every eye in the wedding venue. Through the glass, she could see the entire reception staring at them in stunned silence. Her parents, the business associates, Marcus's family, everyone who had witnessed her public humiliation 6 months ago, was now watching Gabriel claim her as his queen. "This is insane," Elaine said desperately. "Maya, tell them this is some kind of joke. Tell them you're not actually—" "She's not telling them anything," Gabriel interrupted, his voice carrying absolute authority. "Because Maya has nothing to prove to any of you, not anymore." He turned back to Maya, and when he spoke again, his voice was softer but no less certain. "I'm done pretending this is casual. I'm done letting you think you're anything less than everything to me." Gabriel dropped to one knee right there on the terrace, in front of God and everyone. Maya's hands flew to her mouth as he pulled out a ring that caught the late afternoon light like captured starfire. "Maya Chen," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "You are my mate, my equal, my heart. You are brave and kind and strong enough to survive betrayal and still choose trust. You are everything I've been looking for and everything I never knew I needed." His amber eyes burned with intensity. "Will you do me the honour of becoming my wife, my queen, my everything?" The ring was stunning. a perfect diamond surrounded by smaller stones that seemed to glow with their own inner light. But it was the look in Gabriel's eyes that took Maya's breath away. Devotion, adoration, love so deep it made her chest ache. Behind them, she could hear Elaine's sharp intake of breath, Marcus's muttered curse. Inside, the wedding guests were pressed against the glass like they were watching the most dramatic movie of their lives. Maya looked down at Gabriel, this powerful, beautiful man who could have chosen anyone, who had waited centuries to find her, who had seen her at her most desperate and decided she was worth everything. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "yes." Gabriel's smile could have powered the entire city. He slipped the ring onto her finger with hands that shook slightly, then stood and pulled her into his arms. When he kissed her, Maya felt the golden thread in her chest blaze into a supernova of heat and light and belonging. The kiss was everything their first should have been, passionate and claiming and full of promise. Gabriel kissed her like she was precious, like she was everything, like he would fight the world to keep her safe. When they finally broke apart, the applause from inside was thunderous. Maya blinked in surprise to see that the entire wedding reception had abandoned any pretense of Elaine's celebration and was focused entirely on the drama unfolding on the terrace. "Well," Gabriel said, his arm tight around her waist, "I think we've upstaged the bride." Maya looked at Elaine, who was staring at them with a mixture of envy and disbelief so profound it was almost comical. Marcus looked like he was going to be sick. "You're really the Alpha King's mate?" Elaine asked weakly. Maya felt Gabriel's chest rumble with laughter against her back. "She's really my everything," he corrected. "And now, if you'll excuse us, we have our own celebration to plan." He turned them toward the glass doors, toward the crowd of people who were looking at Maya with new eyes, not as the girl who wasn't good enough, but as the woman chosen by the most powerful man in the supernatural world. "Ready, my queen?" Gabriel murmured against her ear. Maya looked down at the ring glittering on her finger, felt the warm weight of Gabriel's arms around her, heard the absolute certainty in his voice when he called her his everything. For the first time in her life, she felt truly worthy of love. "Ready," she said. And as they walked back into the wedding reception, now very much their engagement party, Maya caught sight of her parents' faces. Her mother was crying, her father was beaming with pride, and both of them were looking at her like they were seeing her for the first time. Maybe they were, maybe everyone was, and maybe, Maya thought as Gabriel's hand tightened on hers, that was exactly what she needed. Maya's hands were shaking. The engagement ring caught the moonlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Gabriel's penthouse, casting tiny rainbows across the white walls. She stood at the edge of his living room, still wearing the midnight blue dress, still feeling like she was living in someone else's life. An hour ago, she had been kissed by the Alpha King in front of 100 witnesses. An hour ago, she had been claimed as his queen before the same people who had watched Marcus humiliate her. An hour ago, everything had changed forever. Now, alone with Gabriel for the first time since the revelation, the enormity of what had happened was hitting her like a tsunami. "Maya." Gabriel's voice was gentle, careful. He stood near the kitchen island, having shed his suit jacket and rolled up his sleeves, giving her space while clearly wanting to comfort her. "Talk to me." "I can't process this," Maya whispered, her voice breaking. "Any of this. You're the Alpha King, Gabriel. The Alpha King, and I'm just—" "Stop!" Gabriel moved closer, but slowly, like he was approaching a wounded animal. "Don't finish that sentence, not the way you were going to." Maya turned to face him, and the tears she'd been holding back finally spilled over. "How can you say I'm your mate when you don't even know me, really know me? I have student loans and a tiny apartment and a job that barely pays the bills. I eat cereal for dinner 3 nights a week, and I haven't been on a real vacation in 2 years. Gabriel's expression softened. "Maya, My sister betrayed me, my ex-boyfriend called me practice, and my parents stood by and let it happen. The words tumbled out of her in a rush, all the pain and insecurity she'd been carrying for months. I'm broken, Gabriel, damaged. I don't know how to trust people anymore. How can someone like you want someone like me? Gabriel was in front of her before she could blink, his hands framing her face with infinite gentleness. Because someone like me has been waiting centuries for someone exactly like you. But listen to me. His thumbs brushed away her tears. Do you want to know what I see when I look at you? I see a woman who survived betrayal and still chooses kindness, who was publicly humiliated and still worried about a stranger's feelings, who has every reason to be bitter and cynical but still believes in love enough to be afraid of it. Maya's breath hitched. Gabrielle. I see someone who works 2 jobs to pay off her sister's medical school loans, even though that same sister stole her boyfriend. Someone who stays late every Friday to help her elderly neighbour with groceries. Someone who volunteers at the animal shelter on weekends because she believes abandoned creatures deserve love too. Maya stared at him in shock. How do you know all that? Gabriel's smile was sad and beautiful. Because I've been looking for you for 200 years, Maya. When I found you, do you think I didn't learn everything I could about the woman fate had chosen for me? The golden warmth in her chest flared, but with it came a wave of fear so intense it nearly knocked her over. This is happening too fast. Yesterday I didn't even know you existed, and now you're talking about fate and forever and it terrifies you. Gabriel finished softly. I know. Doesn't it terrify you? Maya asked desperately. What if the bond is wrong? What if you get to know me and decide I'm not worth it? What if... Gabriel silenced her with a kiss, so gentle it made her heart ache. When he pulled back, his amber eyes were blazing with certainty. Maya, I've lived for over 2 centuries. I've met thousands of people, from peasants to presidents to other supernatural royalty. I've had women throw themselves at me for my power, my status, my wealth. I've been proposed to by princesses and propositioned by models and pursued by every ambitious family with a daughter. His voice was rough with emotion. And in all that time, not one of them made me feel what you did in the first 5 minutes of our conversation. What did I make you feel? Maya whispered. Home, Gabriel said simply. Like I'd been holding my breath for 2 centuries and could finally exhale. Like every lonely night, every empty formal event, every meaningless political alliance had been leading me to that coffee shop, to that moment, to you. Maya felt something crack open in her chest, something that had been locked tight since Marcus's betrayal. I'm scared, she admitted. I know. Gabriel's forehead touched hers. I'm scared too. You are? Gabriel laughed, the sound shaky. Maya, you're my mate, my one chance at real love, at a real partnership, at everything I've dreamed of for centuries. You have the power to destroy me completely. Of course I'm terrified. The honesty in his voice, the vulnerability he was showing her, made Maya's defences crumble a little more. What if I'm not strong enough to be a queen? What if you are? Gabriel countered. What if you're exactly what the supernatural world needs, someone who understands what it feels like to be overlooked, to be considered unworthy, someone who leads with compassion instead of force? Maya searched his face, looking for any sign of doubt, any hint that he was trying to convince himself as much as her. But all she saw was conviction and something that looked like wonder. Tell me about the bond, she said quietly. I felt it from the beginning. That warmth, that pull, but I don't understand what it means. Gabriel's hand slipped down to take hers, his thumbs tracing over her knuckles in that gesture that sent sparks through her entire body. The mate bond is rare, even among shifters. It's fate's way of ensuring that the strongest alphas find their perfect match, someone who complements their power, who can stand beside them as an equal. But I don't have any power. Gabriel's smile was devastating. Don't you? Maya, You walked into that coffee shop broken and desperate, and within 5 minutes you had the most powerful shifter in the territories ready to do anything to protect you. If that's not power, I don't know what is. Maya felt the golden thread in her chest pulse with warmth. Is that what this is? This feeling like sunshine spreading through my ribs? That's the bond, Gabriel confirmed. It connects us on a level deeper than physical, deeper than emotional. It's our souls recognizing each other. His voice dropped to a whisper. It's what made me wait 2 centuries for you, even when I didn't know you existed. And now? Maya asked, her heart hammering. Gabriel lifted her left hand, pressing a soft kiss to the engagement ring he'd placed there. Now we have forever to figure out what we mean to each other. No pressure, no timeline except the one we choose. Just us, learning to trust each other, learning to love each other the way we're meant to. Maya looked down at their joined hands, at the ring that marked her as his in every way that mattered. What happens next? Whatever you want to happen, Gabriel said. We can take this as slow as you need. We can have a long engagement, a small wedding, whatever makes you comfortable. The bond isn't going anywhere, Maya. I'm not going anywhere. The certainty in his voice, the patience he was offering, made something loosen in Maya's chest. For the first time since the revelation, she felt like she could breathe. I want to know you, she said softly. The real you, not the king, not the alpha, just Gabriel. Gabriel's smile was radiant. I want that too, more than anything. Maya stepped closer, drawn by the warmth in his eyes, the steady strength of his presence. Can I stay tonight, just to be close to you? I'm not ready for everything, but I don't want to be alone. Gabriel's expression melted with tenderness. You can stay as long as you want, forever if you'll have me. When he pulled her into his arms, Maya felt the golden thread in her chest settle into a steady, warm glow. She was still scared, still overwhelmed by the magnitude of what lay ahead, but for the first time in months she felt safe, more than safe. She felt cherished. And maybe, Maya thought as Gabriel held her close, that was enough to build forever on. 3 months later, Maya woke up in silk sheets that cost more than her old apartment's monthly rent. But it was the warm arm wrapped around her waist that made her smile. Good morning, my queen, Gabriel murmured against her neck, his voice rough with sleep. Good morning, your majesty, Maya replied, turning in his arms to face the man who had become her entire world. The morning light streaming through the windows of their shared bedroom caught the engagement ring on her finger, but it was Gabriel's amber eyes that truly glowed. In 3 months those eyes had seen her at her worst, crying over wedding planning stress, panicking about royal protocol, having nightmares about failing as a queen, and they had never once shown anything but adoration. Coffee, Gabriel asked, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. Please, and those pastries from the bakery downtown. Gabriel laughed, the sound rich and warm. My queen has expensive tastes. Your queen likes what she likes, Maya said, stretching luxuriously. And what she likes is not having to pretend to enjoy caviar for breakfast. One of the many reasons I adore you, Gabriel said, sliding out of bed with that fluid grace that still made Maya's heart skip. Your complete inability to be impressed by royal pretensions. Maya watched him move around their bedroom, still a concept that made her giddy, pulling on a pair of jeans that did devastating things to his physique. 3 months of waking up beside him, and she still couldn't quite believe this was her life. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, and Maya smiled when she saw her mother's name. The relationship with her parents had taken time to rebuild, but Gabriel's patient support had helped her navigate those difficult conversations. Her father had personally apologized for his silence during Marcus's betrayal, and her mother had become Maya's fiercest champion in the society pages. Mum, Maya answered warmly. Darling, I just saw the preliminary guest list for the wedding. Patricia's voice was bright with excitement. 1,200 people. Maya, this is going to be the event of the century. Maya glanced at Gabriel, who was listening with amused fondness. The wedding planning had been a whirlwind, but Gabriel had insisted on giving her everything she wanted, including the right to invite everyone who had ever doubted her worth. "Mum, you know half those people are there because they're curious about the human who caught the Alpha King, right? And the other half are there because they've finally realised what Gabriel saw in you from the beginning," Patricia said firmly. "Speaking of which, have you seen this morning's society page? They're calling you the People's Queen already." Maya had seen it. The title had started 3 weeks ago when photos surfaced of her volunteering at the Children's Hospital, reading stories to young patients. Gabriel had warned her that everything she did would be scrutinised, but somehow the media had fallen in love with her genuine warmth instead of criticising her common origins. "I have to go, Mum. Gabriel's making breakfast." "The Alpha King is making you breakfast?" Patricia's voice was faint with amazement. "Every morning," Maya confirmed, catching Gabriel's grin. "I'll talk to you later." She hung up and padded to the kitchen, where Gabriel was indeed preparing breakfast with the same meticulous attention he gave to matters of state. He had removed his shirt somewhere along the way, and Maya took a moment to appreciate the view. "Enjoying yourself?" Gabriel asked without turning around. "Immensely," Maya said, wrapping her arms around his waist from behind. "Hard to believe that 3 months ago I thought you were just some businessman taking pity on me." Gabriel leaned back into her embrace. "Hard to believe that 3 months ago I thought I'd spend another century alone." The easy intimacy between them still amazed Maya. Gabriel ruled the supernatural world with absolute authority, commanded the loyalty of millions, and negotiated treaties that shaped entire continents. But with her, he was simply Gabriel, the man who brought her coffee in bed, who listened to her ramble about her work, who held her when the weight of her new responsibilities felt overwhelming. "Any regrets?" Gabriel asked softly. Maya pressed a kiss to his shoulder blade, tasting salt and sunshine and home. "Only that I waited so long to say yes to your first proposal." Gabriel turned in her arms, his expression serious. "Maya, are you happy? Really happy? I know this life isn't what you planned." Maya silenced him with a kiss, pouring 3 months of love and gratitude and joy into the connection between them. When they broke apart, Gabriel's eyes were blazing. "I'm happy," Maya said simply. "I'm terrified half the time, and I still can't believe this is real. But Gabriel, I've never been happier." "Good," Gabriel said, his voice rough with emotion, "because I have something for you." He reached into the kitchen drawer and pulled out an envelope with her name written in his elegant handwriting. Maya opened it to find a property deed. "The animal shelter," Maya breathed, staring at the papers. "You bought the animal shelter." "I bought the building," Gabriel corrected. "The shelter was going to lose its lease next month. Now it won't. Ever." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. The shelter where she had volunteered for years, where she had found comfort during her darkest days after Marcus's betrayal, where she had first learned that love could be unconditional. "Gabriel, you have a good heart, Maya. The world needs to see that heart in action. As Queen, you'll have the platform to help everyone who's been overlooked, everyone who's been told they don't matter." Maya looked up at him, this magnificent man who saw her so clearly, who believed in her so completely. "I love you," she said, the words feeling both momentous and as natural as breathing. Gabriel's smile was radiant. "I love you too, more than centuries of existence taught me was possible." The intercom buzzed, and Gabriel's assistant's voice filled the kitchen. "Your Majesty, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's been a development with the Hartwell situation." Maya recognised the name. Marcus had attempted to challenge their engagement legally, claiming Gabriel had been under some sort of supernatural influence. It was a pathetic last-ditch effort that had only resulted in Marcus's complete social exile. "What kind of development?" Gabriel asked, his arm tightening protectively around Maya. "Mr. Hartwell has issued a public apology and retraction. He's also announced his engagement to someone from the European territories, someone who apparently finds his particular brand of ambition appealing." Maya felt Gabriel's chest rumble with suppressed laughter. How fortunate for them both! When the intercom went quiet, Maya shook her head in amazement. He moved on fast. Some people collect possessions instead of building connections, Gabriel said philosophically. Marcus wanted status. He was never interested in you as a person. And Elaine? Gabriel's expression turned wickedly satisfied. Elaine discovered that being married to a man who views wives as accessories isn't quite as fulfilling as she imagined. Word is, she's already consulting divorce lawyers. Maya should have felt vindicated, but instead she just felt sad for her sister. I hope she finds happiness eventually. Gabriel's expression softened with love and admiration. Only you would wish happiness for someone who hurt you so deeply. She's still my sister, Maya said simply. And besides, I got the better ending. Gabriel spun her around the kitchen, both of them laughing like teenagers. When he set her down, his expression grew serious. Maya, in 2 weeks you'll be my wife and my queen. Are you ready? Maya looked around their kitchen, filled with morning light and the scent of fresh pastries. She thought about the life they were building together, one filled with purpose and passion and the kind of love she had stopped believing in. She thought about the wedding that would unite 2 worlds, the future they would create together, the children they might have who would grow up knowing they were cherished. I'm ready, Maya said, meaning it with every fibre of her being. Gabriel kissed her then, slow and deep and full of promise. When they broke apart, Maya felt the golden thread in her chest pulse with perfect contentment. She was Maya Chen, soon to be Maya Winters, the girl who had been called Practice, who had been abandoned and betrayed and told she wasn't enough. But she was also the woman chosen by fate itself, beloved by the most powerful man in the supernatural world, about to become queen not through birthright, but through the simple act of being herself. Forever starts in 2 weeks, Gabriel murmured against her lips. Maya smiled, her heart full to overflowing. Forever started 3 months ago in a coffee shop. When you were desperate for a wedding date? When I was desperate for everything, Maya corrected, and you said, say no more. Gabriel's smile was everything, love and promise and home. Say no more. Where are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. I love hearing from all of you amazing people who believe in the power of love stories like this one. If you'd like to support me and help more people discover these tales, please subscribe. It's free and it means the world to me. Thank you for taking this journey with Maya and Gabriel.